Nobody has ever put out a press release or a tweet saying they bought $250 million of any other crypto asset. So there is no second best. It's like there's one crypto asset that people buy that's money. Everything else is a speculation. And I have no problem with speculation if you can do it in an ethically sound, fair fashion. If you're not cheating somebody, then I don't have a problem with gambling. I don't have a problem with speculation. And the truth is, I think there's a place to launch tokens and digital securities and the like that are actually constructive and good for the civilization. And I think we'll see it going forward. The losers are the authoritarians and the authorities that wish to impose a fiat currency on the 7.7 billion people that is more inflationary than the dollar. And while they're doing it, they will impose a fiat capital asset on the same 7 billion people. So, we say, well, everybody should just use Bitcoin. Well, they should use Bitcoin, but the truth of the matter is, if you were an operating business in Argentina for the past 20 years and you had 100 million pesos, if you had been able to swap it for $100 million on a digital currency network, you would still be rich. And if you had been stuck in the peso, you would have been devalued 1,000 to 1 and you would be impoverished. And if you had bought Bitcoin, well, yeah, you would be like the richest person in the world, right? I mean, if you had bought $100 million of Bitcoin 20 years ago, I mean, you couldn't, but 10 years ago, yeah, you would be richer than Elon Musk. But the point is, and this is what I learned in my life, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And the message of the crypto renaissance to the Bitcoiners would be, yeah, Bitcoin is like a perfect solution. But the Argentinians didn't need the perfect solution. If they'd all picked the perfect solution, they'd be richer than Elon Musk and Bernard Arnault and Jeff Bezos right now. They didn't need that. They just needed a solution that was better than an awful one. And so in this particular case, a digital currency that spreads to the entire world, that's embraced by the world, would actually provide American prosperity to people in Africa, Asia, South America, ASEAN, Europe, and it would be I'm going to call it a gateway drug, right, to Bitcoin, right? I think that when you're in Nigeria, going to Tether, going to a digital currency that's backed by the US dollar is the obvious step. And after you get there, the next step would be go to digital capital, which is Bitcoin. And so Bitcoin it's not really competing with the currencies. The US dollar is going to actually replace the weak, defective, toxic currencies. People think, well, the US bonds, they're being attacked by Bitcoin. Well, let me turn it around. If we release digital currency, the digital currency is going to go to everywhere in the world, and US bonds are going to capitalize all those other countries. And I wouldn't choose US bonds to capitalize MicroStrategy, but if you were operating a business in Afghanistan or Lebanon or Argentina or Nigeria and you capitalize on US bonds, you would be rich. And so don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. I think digital currency is going to spread American values and spread Bitcoin values, eventually. And it's a good thing, and it ought to be headquartered in America. The world's better if we had digital tokens. If there's an ethically sound, economically sound, technically sound way to issue them. There's nothing wrong with Joe Rogan issuing Rogan token or Katy Perry issuing Katy Perry coin, if it was fair and equitable, if he didn't lie, cheat, and steal, right? And if there's some utility, if you give someone digital utility, or if you just take the idea of, if I run a $5 million a year business, how do I sell securities to the public to raise $3 million? If the SEC makes you spend $50 million on lawyers and accountants in order to protect people that want to put $2 million at risk, it's like you can't buy a $50 million insurance policy to take a $2 million risk. And so what we need is a digital regime where I can do things a million times faster, a million times cheaper. And if I can do it a million times faster and cheaper, then I can deliver the promise of either digital securities or digital tokens to 400 million businesses instead of 4,000. And so, yeah, I do think after the red wave, there's a crypto renaissance that's coming, and I think the crypto renaissance is going to spark massive capital formation, and we're going to not have, there's 4,000 public companies, and there's like 40 everybody talks about. I mean, how many of the Russell 2000 do you trade? It's like I turn on CNBC, and it's like NVIDIA, Apple, Meta, NVIDIA, Tesla, NVIDIA, Apple, Meta, Microsoft. And it's like, well, what about the other 99.9%? And so what you realize is we have an antiquated oligopoly. We have an antiquated structure based on 20th century ideas. It's time for us to move into the 21st century. It's time for us to do things smarter, faster, stronger. It's time for us to serve the 8 billion people that are trying to make a life for themselves through the 400 million companies. And we should hold out the promise of technology. And the government's role, it isn't to tell you no. It isn't to sue you when you try to do something aspirational. The government's role is to provide an ethically sound, technically sound, economically sound way out of poverty.
It looks like we're witnessing the digitization of fiat currencies and eventually the tokenization of real-world assets to empower the individual through a set of digital solutions, with Bitcoin being really the pristine collateral and the deep store of value. And all of this will contribute through free enterprise to a more thriving global economy. Do I have everything you said?
It's not just empowering the individual, it's also empowering corporations. I mean, when two individuals get together and decide to solve a problem as a team, you just created a company. Mm-hmm. And when 5 individuals, right, you've got a business. So I think empowering individuals, teams of individuals, corporations, institutions, and when 10 individuals get together and they decide to run, and one of them's going to run for mayor, mm-hmm. and they get elected, you've just created a government. And we just saw a change of a government. So I think this is all about better living through technology and empowering individuals, families, corporations, and governments to create a better future for all of us.
All right, I want to talk a little bit about MicroStrategy for a moment, because it has pretty much outperformed everything. It's outperformed every stock in the S&P 500. It's dominated over the last 4 years. Why have we seen so few companies follow in your footsteps?
Because they were looking at a certain death. Because the other companies, you have to get to the point where you're looking over the edge of the abyss and you realize you're looking at a quick death or a slow death or take a risk. Okay? And I suppose the equivalent, when other companies get to this point, there's a conventional and there's an unconventional exit, Natalie. The conventional exit is sell the company. Or go private, an LBO. So out of 100 competitors of mine over the course of 30 years, 99 of them sold themselves. So normally the way that people basically exit, they even call them exits for entrepreneurs. I had a lot of exit. It means they got to the point where they couldn't grow the company anymore, so they sold it. So you either sell the company or you go private, which is the same as selling the company to private investors. Or you shut down you go bankrupt, right? But it's more often you just sell the company. So I would say a lot of companies did go bankrupt after COVID. A lot failed. A lot sold themselves, right? And the unconventional approach is you merge with Bitcoin, right? You invert yourself and you adopt the Bitcoin standard. Now, the impediments to doing it are you had to understand Bitcoin, so it takes 100 hours. And you have to know enough to know, and I suppose you still have to have hope. Because, my choice was sell the company for $18 a share, which would be when we had like $7 a share in cash. So sell the company for whatever, $10 a share effectively, and give up, retire, and declare victory. That was my choice. Or take a risk, right? Whatever, the company's $300 and something a share now. So it worked out well for my employees and my shareholders that we didn't give up. But most people, I think they get to the point in their life where they just give up, because, I mean, isn't that what most people do? They just they take the conventional way out, they retire, like, I can't do anything more, so I'm just gonna throw in the towel.
I guess they lack hope, or they don't understand Bitcoin, or both.
I think it's the 4 years. A lot of people take their cues. They're not first principles thinkers, right? They take their cues from other authority figures. So 4 years ago, it wasn't clear that Bitcoin was an institutional asset. It wasn't clear as a digital commodity. What happened? Gary Gensler said it's a digital commodity. Gary Gensler said Satoshi did a good thing. The administration didn't ban it. BlackRock supported it. Trump said, don't sell it. So and FASB, the accounting organization, said, okay, now you can market at fair value. So if it goes up, you have an investment gain. When it goes down, it's an investment loss. If you have $1 billion of it, you can say you have $1 billion of it. So the accounting got fixed. The regulatory treatment got fixed. The political environment got fixed. One could argue, though, these things really didn't really get fixed, or they won't be truly fixed until 2025, right? When Trump is president, January 20th, now you have a president that says don't sell your Bitcoin. Now you have an end to the war on crypto. Now you have an end to the war, the hostile approach toward Bitcoin. Now you have a new head of the SEC that doesn't just say, I will do it under protest, but it's a good thing. And then fair value accounting becomes normal. If we get the repeal of SAB 121 and you get the first bank or two banks that support Bitcoin, then you can say, okay, the banking system accepted it, the accounting system accepted it, the regulators accepted it, the administration accepted it, the House, the Senate accepted it. Now a lot of people that they don't really think for themselves, or maybe they just fall in, it might be too harsh, it might be more to say, they just want to be part of the crowd or the late majority, or I want to basically wait until all the other people have taken the risk. When all my smart rich friends have an iPhone, I'll buy an iPhone. When my smart rich friends have a Spirio playing piano, I'll buy a piano that plays music for itself. When my smart rich friends have a jet, I'll buy a jet. So they're going to wait for their smart rich friends that they look up to do it, and then they will follow. Yeah. And now here's the most important insight. Now we've invested more than 10 million. We know that smart people have invested more than 850 billion. We know that now. But we also know, even after the 4 years, even after 40 Bitcoin buys, even after I've said, I buy, oh, I'm going to buy 42 billion more. Even after that, nobody has ever put out a press release or a tweet saying they bought $250 million of any other crypto asset. So there is no second best. It's like there's one crypto asset that people buy that's money. Everything else is a speculation. And I have no problem with speculation if you can do it in an ethically sound, fair fashion. If you're not cheating somebody, then I don't have a problem with gambling. I don't have a problem with speculation. And the truth is, I think there's a place to launch tokens and digital securities and the like that are actually constructive and good for the civilization. And I think we'll see it going forward.